Hey everyone, welcome back to Matter of Facts. As promised in the last episode where we talked about body armor and chest rigs and all the secondary support gear you need to support your weapon system, now we're going to talk about a primary weapon system. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way just so the YouTube range officers don't scream and yell. No magazine, no ammo rifle. We're clear. We can all calm ourselves right on down. I'm not even going to clear my secondary. We're not talking about it yet, but it's clear as well. Have a little bit of faith in me. Anyway, this is a Saiga rifle that has been modified roughly back to an AK specification. The trigger pack's been changed out, pistol grip's been moved up, buttstock's been replaced, all the furniture's been redone on this. I have an ALG trigger installed. For anybody that has an AK that's not really happy with the Tapco trigger, give ALG a look. Really nice trigger, a lot shorter on the pull and the reset. I really like it and I recommend it. I also have an Ultimag rail installed, which you can see up here replaces the gas tube. Have a Bushnell TRS-25 mounted to it, just a cheap little red dot. But it's a durable, cheap little red dot, and that's worth pointing out. This is probably like the de facto, I want to put a red dot on my AK setup, but there's a reason I did it. It's because this is a known commodity. This works. I wasn't trying to blaze a new trail. I want something that works, and everybody's done this before, and I know this works well. This also has what's called lower one-third co-witness, meaning I can still see my iron sights in the bottom of this. If the battery dies or the red dot dies, as long as I don't spider the glass in here and I can still see through it, I still have sights. Not really a whole lot to tell about this rifle, to be honest. I don't think it's anything particularly special, but I did want to kind of show it to everybody and say that, in my opinion, this is a good place to start if we're talking about a primary home defense weapon. It's semi-automatic, it's magazine fed, shoots an intermediate cartridge, so I'm not dealing with full house recoil. For some of y'all want full house recoil, and that's fine. If you're going to shoot something that shoots 308 like a FAL or a G3 or similar, I would only say that you need to ask yourself, what's the philosophy of use? You'll hear me say that a lot. If you need more range than an intermediate cartridge can reliably provide you, you might want to look at something that shoots 308 7.62x51. In my personal opinion, though, if we're talking about home defense range, property defense range, anything under like 200 yards, 7.62x39 or 5.56 is perfectly acceptable. It's perfectly lethal. I mean, it does the job. There's a reason we give it to our, there's a reason that this was used to shoot at us for so many years, and there's a reason that we issue the other one to our militaries, because they work. So if you're going to deviate from it, my recommendation to have an intermediate cartridge to be able to carry more ammo with less weight, less recoil, and blah, blah, blah. Ask yourself why, and let's challenge that thought. You may not need 308, but if you want it, go for it. It's your rifle. It's your home to defend. I really don't recommend and can't get into the idea of a pistol caliber carbine, not for a primary weapon, because quite frankly, I want more firepower than a 9mm carbine is going to give me. I don't want a long pistol for a primary. If we're talking about like a truck gun or some other use, we can debate that, but for a primary, I want intermediate cartridge, I want magazine fed, I want semi-automatic. Like I stated in the blog, if your environment's substantially different, like you have, say, flatter land, longer distances, prairie, that sort of thing, you might want to swap out something like a semi-automatic 308 or even a bolt action and have a full house cartridge just to have greater standoff range. Where I live, it's pretty much, woods and swamps and suburban area. That sounds like a weird mix, but it's Louisiana. You get used to it after a while. But the point is that down here, I'm unlikely to need to take a shot beyond 100 yards, and that's pushing it. I mean, it's just, there's not a lot of opportunity to use weapon systems that can go that far out. So, for me and my use, I think this is going to work. For the average person, I think this is a good idea. I would also throw this idea out there, if you're the kind of person who likes lever actions do actually come with a couple of benefits. Like if you're shooting a 4570 or 444 Marlin, those cartridges, I know from watching Iraq Veteran 8888's video, which I'll link in the show description so y'all can take a look at that, but he showed pretty conclusively that those cartridges are largely unaffected by, say, shooting through dense brush. So if you live in an area where you're out in the woods and there's a lot of dense brush, you might consider a lever action shooting a slower, heavier moving round, whereas the more modern high-velocity Spitzer rounds would get pushed around more by the brush. Again, like I keep saying all along, you make your own decision, you look at your own situation. I'm giving a recommendation that if you don't have one of these, you're going to have a decision to make about whether you go to something like this or you spend your first dollars in the gun world on a handgun. Honestly, if we're talking about a concealability, obviously I can't conceal this. Let's get past that. I'm not throwing shade on open carriers that like to carry around long guns. I respect the right. I don't see the utility in it personally. But if we're talking about something you need to conceal, you're going to need a handgun. We'll have a whole other episode on handguns. We'll have probably a couple of episodes on handguns. If we get past the need to conceal a firearm, though, and we're talking about maximum effectiveness, this is what you want, not a handgun. If you get a bump in the night and you could be, about to go draw down on your dog, or you could be drawing down on somebody trying to break into your home and hurt you, you don't want a handgun. You want one of these, and you want it loaded up. This gives me not even talking about having my chest rig or my plate carrier or extra ammo or any of that nonsense, just what I can pack on this firearm. I got 30 rounds. I've got 4 times the muzzle energy of your average handgun. I've got a greater ability to make an accurate shot due to the optic. I've got a longer sight radius than I'm going to have with a handgun. I've got 3 points contact on the firearm. I can have 2 hands on this weapon and have this tucked in my shoulder. This is more stable. This is a better platform for home defense. And anybody that sits there and tells you, oh, it's too big and you'll get hung up in hallways and all that, try it. I've done it. I have done a full home clearing drill with this and with my handgun, and I'll tell you, the only time my handgun beat this is if I come down to a single hand maneuver. Meaning, if I'm up here and I need to come down to one hand, say to grab my daughter or to maneuver something, this gets very shaky very quickly. It's an AK, but even a full-size AR is going to get heavy fairly quickly if you're trying to muscle it into the pocket of your shoulder with one hand. We ain't tucking it down in here like Rambo. That doesn't work. Don't do that. So in that one situation, a one-handed maneuver, a handgun gives you better options, but it's still not a great one because you still want to shoot the handgun with 2 hands if you can, because that's going to give you better accuracy. So we're right back where we started with, for your first firearm purchase, if you're not going to conceal it and you don't need concealed carry, I recommend this. I recommend you have a way to secure it, to keep small, curious hands off of it. That's a little more difficult with a long gun versus a handgun, but I recommend a long gun. This is the more powerful tool to protect your family. And for those of you that unfortunately live in less freedom-loving places than I do, God, my heart breaks for you, but you need to get something. I don't recommend a handgun. I recommend you get a lever action. Most states that are all going nuts over the scary black rifles, or in this case the scary black and green rifle, don't care about lever actions. And a good lever action can bring just about as much hell to a fight as one of these can in capable hands. Even the most restrictive states are going to allow you to have a bolt action rifle, and if you get the bolt slicked up a little bit and you know what you're doing, you can rack off a couple of quickly aimed shots with it. Can you put more rounds on target with a semi-automatic handgun than you can with a bolt-action rifle? Of course, but you're still talking about a lot more muzzle energy out of the rifles than you're going to get out of the handgun. This is your better option, in my personal opinion. We could have a whole discussion about shotguns. I'm just not a shotgun kind of person, and I don't think a shotgun has a place as a primary weapon system. This gives you better range, more capacity, more bolts to deal with more problems. This, in my opinion, as far as a primary weapon system, is where the buck stops. You need to look at one of these. Minimum equipment, you can omit the red dot and the furniture and all the cool stuff I put on here. I do recommend a sling. Don't care what kind you get. Really don't. I don't recommend single points, honestly. This is actually this whole setup is convertible from a single to a dual point pretty quickly, but I don't run as a single point sling. Single points really are a nice option if you're getting in and out of vehicles all the time, or if you're taking the weapon off your body very often, because then you only have one single point. In this case, I can actually pop a clip and knock the hole and take this off and leave the sling around me. And that's convenient, but you don't get any control. I mean, when this thing's hung up in a single point, and I might make a video showing it, but it's swinging around and dangling and bashing you in the kneecaps and guys that hit you in some other unfortunate spots sometimes. So, I mean, it's it's the kind of thing that's good for weapon retention, but it's horrible for weapon control. I have this set up as a 2-point sling, aptly called because it attaches in 2 points. I'll wrap this around my body so that I have the sling kind of going over my right shoulder, coming underneath my left armpit. When I drop the weapon, it'll secure it right about here. I don't have it on me right now because then I wouldn't be able to kind of maneuver as easily to show it to you. But I can drop the weapon, it'll hang right here. Let me get to my secondary weapon very easily. Let me get to my mags very easily. It'll drape right across the front of my plate carrier. And if you get this thing adjusted to the right length, you'll still have mobility to be able to do what you need to do with the weapon. At this length, I can very easily hook it into my shoulder pocket, and I have good control over the weapon. I also have the ability to tuck it underneath an arm, come up, and still do mag changes, and do it right here where I can see what I'm doing. You need to. That's a real good reason though why you need to kind of try on your gear and see if it all works together. If you don't play dress up every now and then, you're not going to know that all this stuff is sized correctly. Plate carriers have to be sized to you. So do slings. Everything else. Simple things like how long is your buttstock come to effect at some point, because you want to make sure that you have a good length of pull and you're not sitting out here on the rifle like this because your buttstock's too long or too short and you're all crunched up on it. Try your gear on. Sidebar though. But the point is, I recommend a rifle. Sling's mandatory. Slings are like holsters for rifles. That's what you do with the rifle when you don't feel like carrying it anymore. You need to do something with both hands. And I recommend, if it's magazine fed, I recommend 5 mags minimum. 10's better. The more the better, honestly. Magazines are wear items. People don't think about that, but magazines are wear items, and those of us that have used them hard know that they do get damaged and they do kind of eat their own lunch every now and then. So if that happens, you need to have a stable of magazines to replace the ones that get damaged every now and then. But 5 mags, bare minimum, 1,000 rounds of ammo. That might sound like a lot, but we're talking about in today's prices for 7.62x39, that's $250 shipped all day long. It's not a special deal or anything. And 1,000 rounds of ammo, I mean, that's enough to fill your magazines a few times, go do a range trip or two to get familiar with the weapon, and have, say, 500 rounds sitting at the house left over. But I personally can't recommend less than 1,000 rounds of ammo to keep on hand for your primary weapon system, because if it comes down to you need to defend your family and nobody is coming to help, do you want to have 5 mags full or 500 rounds or 5,000 rounds? The more the merrier when it comes to ammo. But I'm not going to let this go too long. I just wanted to kind of give y'all some food for thought, show y'all what in my opinion is a good starter rifle. I'll include some links to a couple of things to kind of get y'all's minds going, but I'll tell you honestly, I mean, when it comes to rifle prices, it's probably almost something that's going to be better discussed in an audio podcast or a blog, because the prices vary so wildly and the quality varies wildly. People that are into AKs know that Saigas, you know, for the people that don't like Saigas, it's because they don't have the bayonet lug and they don't have the cleaning rod and they don't have all the AK stuff on them. But people that know Saigas know that these things internally were built beautifully. I mean, this is the only AK you're going to get into this country made in Russia. Find another one. Let me know where you find it. Okay, Veprs too. Veprs and Saigas, you can get those out of Russia. Everywhere else you're getting from Romania, Egypt, Bulgaria, and 10,000 other places. And they all make a good AK, but they don't make it like the motherland does. So, you know, I was glad to get this, and I got it at a good price before the sanctions kicked in and really started spiking the prices up. I would say, honestly, at this point, if you're looking for a good home defense capable AK, you better come into the market with about $1,000. That's just, don't expect to spend less than that unless you get crazy lucky. Come into the market with $1,000, put aside another $500 for mags and ammo and little doodads you're going to want to put on your rifle, because we all know you're going to. And just accept that that is a buy-in price for a good rifle. If you start eyeballing that $600-700 AK in the gun shop, and they swear to you it's American made, it's just as good as everything else, please run. I'm not going to get into all the internet bric-a-brac. It's well noted. There are several companies out there that put AKs out there that have had problems. And I'm putting it lightly, problems. Like bolts peening themselves, headspace issues, guns blowing up, trunnions cracking. It's been bad. Until the US AK market really straightens itself out, I can't recommend a lot of them. I just can't. I need to see a couple of years of I know how to put together a rifle that doesn't beat itself to death. In the AR market, I mean, the AR market is so much larger than the AK market is. It's honestly, you can get into an AR cheaper than you can an AK. There's a lot more knowledge base out there. The ammo's a little bit more expensive, honestly. I think it's like another 8 to 10 cents a round over what you're going to pay for good, or not even for good, but because this thing will eat anything you feed to it. But when you're looking at Steelcase 7.62 by 39, I'm talking about spending, pretty much 25 cents a round shipped to my door. You're talking more like 32 to 35 cents a round for decent quality 5.56. So there's a trade-off involved. You might get the gun cheaper, the ammo's going to cost more, but there's a lot more knowledge base out there, and there are some pros to an AR. We might actually get into a bit of that on the audio podcast, because the guy I'm trying to bring on to help me out with that show, he is more of an AR guy, I'm an AK guy. We're going to have a good old debate about that. We'll toss back and forth the pros and cons. But I'll wrap this up. This is what I recommend for a first purchase. If you are in the prepper survivalist mindset, if you're in the mindset of I need to protect my family, this is the very first thing I'd look at getting. Because the plate carrier and the med kit and all the other stuff isn't going to do you a lot of good if you can't defend yourself. And this is the best tool to defend yourself, in my opinion. For those of you that live in places that don't let y'all have these things, heart breaks for you. We're going to have to figure out something else for y'all. Lever actions are a good place to start. They can be very capable in the right hands. But I'll tie this up, and be another episode coming out shortly. We'll talk about handguns a little bit.